All right, so super short Blender tutorial on how to um, animate rigid body dynamics. So I've started off here with a plain new Blender file. I'm going to add a plane, scale it up a bit by 5, and move it down on the z-axis to the bottom of my cube. We'll make this a passive rigid body. Next, I'm going to take my cube. I'm going to make this. What we want to do here is animate this dynamic flag. So I'm going to turn it off and keyframe it for the start. And then I'll drag my timeline out to 30, which is when I want my explosion to happen. And I'll turn it back on and add another keyframe. So now I have up to frame 30, it's off. And then at frame 30, you can see it becomes active. Now I'm going to take my cube, tab into edit mode, and subdivide it a couple times to give it some geometry for the cell fracture. Tab back into object mode, and then I will apply the quick effect cell fracture. I will give it some noise and random shatter, and then hit OK. After this finishes, you have all of the cells selected. So at this point, it's a good idea to move them into a new collection, which I will call cells. And then what we can do is take our cube, and I'm going to move it just a little bit so I can select it easily. What we want to do is link the animation and rigid body dynamics from our cube to all of our cells. So using my collection up here, I'm going to right click and say select all objects. Then holding my shift, I'll click on my cube and then press Control L to link my animation data. And then with the same selection, I'll go Object, Rigid Body, Copy from Active. And at this point, we don't need this cube anymore, so I'm just going to hide that. Now, if we play our animation at this point, we'll get to frame 30 and it'll just fall apart, showing us that it's not active until frame 30. What we want to do is put something in there so that when it becomes active, it gets pushed out violently. So we'll do that by adding in some type of object. I'm going to use a sphere. And on frame 1, it's going to be here. So that's just, I pressed I to add a location keyframe. I'm going to turn on the rigid body, but I'm going to call it animated because I'm in control of where it goes. So remember, these became active on 30. I'm going to put my ball in there on 20, so I have a 10 frame pause, dramatic pause. So I'll move that in there and I'll hit location. So now when we play our animation, the ball will slowly, it'll move in, it'll pause for the 10 frames, and then on frame 30, when all those cells become active, they'll notice the ball and get pushed out. So that's what it looks like. There you go.